Alrighty, folks, what's going on? This is Matt here for Dark One Linux Tech and Gaming, where this is the fusion of Linux technology and gaming. And we are looking at a video that cropped up across my feed, and it is a title video, like a statement of fact. And kind of, I always dread these videos, but kind of catches your interest, unfortunately. Is it obvious 10 ways Linux is just better than Windows? Generically, I hate titles like that, but I try to give them the benefit of the doubt. Sometimes they are actually not full of dumb. So let's roll and see what Homeboy here has to say on whether or not there's actually anything useful or if it's just 5.5 minutes of stupid.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving headfirst into the epic battle of the operating systems. That's right folks, we're talking about 10 reasons Linux destroys Windows. Now I know what you're thinking. Linux? Isn't that?
No, you don't know what I'm thinking. First off, the thing I'm thinking of is, yay, AI generated voiceover. Awesome. Does that mean the script is AI generated too?
For like hackers and tech wizards, well, hold on to your hats because Linux has been stepping up its game big time lately. It's gaining popularity faster than a Tesla on autopilot, and for good reason. So buckle up, Buttercup, as we explore why so many people are ditching the Windows wallpaper for the penguin power of Linux. First up, let's talk about freedom, baby. With Linux, you're not just a user, you're part of the club. You get access to the source code. Want to tweak something? Go for it. You can customize it to your heart's content. Try pulling that off with Windows, and you'll probably end up with a blue screen of death. And the best part? This freedom comes at no cost to your wallet. That's right, folks. Linux is as free as a bird.
And I hate the marketing fucking already. Don't sell it as a cheap alternative. You diminish the work. Do not sell it as a whore, a cheap whore. The problem with selling it based on strictly on cost, like the cost differential, you make it sound like a halfpenny whore knockoff of Windows and Mac OS, which is the ones that generically, while coming with a system that people know you generically pay for. So stop selling it as a free alternative, etc., etc. Sell it as an alternative, but don't use the price point as its fucking main selling point. It's so fucking stupid. The customization and that kind of stuff, like the control. Here's this again, it's marketing, it's PR and all this other stuff. And people want to talk about freedom, all the other stuff, and like, oh, control is part of freedom. Well, no shit. But the user doesn't care. They just want to know that they control the system. That's what they care about. They don't give a shit about the fucking freedoms and GNU/Linux and this is what gives you all the freedoms and the GPL and is it LGPL 3 or 2 or GPL 2 or 3? Like they don't fucking care. Because you're getting down into the weeds and semantics and all the other stuff. Sell it like a product. And that's what you have to do. And the free thing diminishes the ability to sell the fucking product to people who may want control, but they don't give a shit about the philosophical way that it's done or controlled, that they have earned the ability to control it. So again, if you're going to talk freedoms and all that stuff and access to source code, know your demographic and sell that as the selling point. But if you're just talking to Joe Schmo who doesn't care but likes, their system, it's their system, they want their system, sell it as control. Also, again, AI generated voice and voiceovers, fucking annoying already.
Let's face it, folks. Windows is about as secure as a screen door on a submarine. But with Linux, you're talking about a whole different ballgame. Linux is built from the ground up with security in mind. For starters, there are way fewer viruses and malware targeting Linux. And even if some digital hooligan tries to mess with your system, Linux's robust permission system is there to stop them in their tracks. So you can browse the web, download files, and game to your heart's content, knowing that your digital fortress is secure.
Is it more secure? It depends on how you want to talk about fucking from a design perspective. Windows is security through obscurity nonsense, and Linux is the many eyes approach. So it's fucking relative. I would generically say that Linux is built from a networking perspective because of its Unix base. So therefore multi-user. So it takes into account multiple users on a system or network and dwindles it down to a singular user. Whereas Windows 10, at least in the past, was originally designed as like a single user system that they tried to scale to a multi-user system. And generically, going from multi to singular is a lot more secure based on kind of the downward trend of that, whereas going from singular to upwards makes a lot more open holes and stuff. Now, does Linux have its issues? Heartbleed and a lot of other stuff, like, you know, there's been stuff in the Linux kernel. There is always security issues, and it doesn't matter the fucking OS. What I will say about the following is it depends on your level of trust of companies. And you can say that about distro maintainers. You can say that about, you know, anything. So it doesn't really matter as far as like that particular end of things. It's about approach. Do you want a singular point of entry as far as like who to blame for all the shit? Oh, it's Microsoft. It's Windows' fault. It's Mac OS's fault. It's Apple's fault. Or do you want to kind of, oh, well, it's, you know, insert distro X here. Like it's all fucking relative. And I hate people overselling the security of Linux. It is secure, but but the overselling sometimes and like, oh, no, boo boo, like ours is better, but like that's kind of all you give. You don't give like actual reasons. It's kind of like when somebody just kind of, oh, well, you suck. It's the same shit that I give people who will say that, oh, Linux sucks. Well, mind extrapolating, kind of expanding on that fucking point. Where can we improve? It's the same deal generically as it relates to Mac OS and Windows and that kind of stuff. When Linux users say, oh, it sucks or it's insecure, well, point out how. Examples do go a long fucking way.
Okay, folks, let's talk about everyone's favorite four-letter word, free. That's right, Linux is completely 100% free to use. You can download it, install it, and use it without spending a single dime. No hidden fees, no subscription plans, no shady microtransactions. Think about all the things you could do with the money you'd save by switching to Linux. The point is, with Linux, you're not just getting a great operating system. You're getting a great operating system for the unbeatable price of absolutely nothing.
I'm not going to go on an entire rant. I already went on about this. Fucking free is not a goddamn selling point. It makes it sound like a cheap fucking Windows freeware bullshit, shareware version of a fucking OS. Stop using free as a fucking selling point. End of rant. Next.
One of the coolest things about Linux is its insane level of customization. Forget about being stuck with the same boring old desktop as everyone else. With Linux, you can pimp your digital crib to your heart's content. We're talking different desktop environments, themes, icons, widgets, you name it. So go wild, experiment, and create a digital space that truly reflects your unique personality. Let's be...
Again, control. Now it just seems like the video is repeating shit, so like whatever. Control. It's control. It's control. Sell it as fucking control. Again, stop selling it as freedom. And, you know, customization is part of the control aspect. Know your audience and who you're selling it to. We talk about trying to grow the audience. So in order to grow the audience, you have to market it to the audience. That audience is going to give a shit about control, not all the other ancillary. It's free shit. End of story.
Be real, folks. Windows can be a real resource hog. But Linux is known for its lightweight and efficient performance. It runs buttery smooth, even on older hardware. So if your computer is starting to feel like it's running on dial-up, switching to Linux can breathe new life into it. And because Linux is so efficient, it boots up faster, loads applications quicker, and generally just feels snappier than Windows.
Yes and no. As far as Windows being a resource hog, yeah, it's always been a fucking resource hog. It's always been terrible. Like at Windows Vista, then while netbooks, while they tried using Vista, yeah, they let's not. Again, it's all relative to, your system and et cetera. So like, um, the range of hardware that is supported as far as like older models that can support newer stuff, yes, it is much wider berth than Windows, whereas Windows is like, oh, here's all these ancillary dumb things for the next version of Windows because we are stupid. TPM or was it TPM 2.0 and all the other shit that they're doing with Windows 11. Yeah, Linux gives you a greater range of hardware that is supported from far older to far newer.
One of the best things about the Linux world is the amazing community behind it. Got a question? Just hop online and you'll find a plethora of forums, communities, and online resources dedicated to all things Linux. Whether you're a complete newbie or a seasoned Linux pro, you'll find a welcoming and supportive community that's always happy to share their knowledge.
Like any other community, depends on the community. Like, there are some communities that can be some severely big jackasses. It's all, again, it's fucking relative. Generally, find if you're gonna get help from the community, it's usually for your distro. Find the right distro for you, because the level of help and friendliness will generally be dependent on your level of distro you choose and where you fall. So if you're more of a Garuda guy like I am, or if you're more of a straight Arch person, or if you're, RTFM type, is depending on where you're going to kind of fall with the community, is dependent upon a lot of your distro selection. Just keep that in mind. Now, there are jackasses, again, in every community on every level, and it doesn't really matter. But again, your helpfulness and willingness of community to answer questions and that kind of stuff is usually mostly distro dependent a lot of the times. So keep that in mind.
Remember the days of scouring the internet for software installers, only to end up with a computer full of bloatware and toolbars you never asked for? Yeah, those days are over with Linux. Linux distributions use something called package managers, which are basically like app stores for your operating system. You want to install a new program? Just open up your package manager, search for it, and click install. It's that easy. No more downloading shady X's from questionable websites.
Oh my God. AI generated video actually gave a fucking point. Yeah, package managers are actually, I do much prefer them over, even Mac OS or Windows. As far as be it using the store or, store, quote unquote, or downloading random DMGs and other things from Windows like exes and .msi and blah, 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 blah. I will say it feels like a better way of installing stuff through the GUI, no less. So, yeah. Oh my God. A fucking 1 point out of however fucking many.
Let's be real, folks. Windows updates are the worst. They always seem to happen at the most inconvenient times. But with Linux, updates are a breeze. Linux distros release regular updates that are designed to be installed quickly and easily, often without requiring a system reboot. So you can keep your system up to date and secure without having to play reboot roulette every other day.
That's not necessarily true. Yes and no. It depends on the components of your system that are being updated, generally speaking. I know some distros, like Fedora and a few others, have started kind of giving a Windows-esque update experience on certain things. So, yes and no. You do have control on when and how you update the system, which Microsoft pseudo gives you, but not in the way you would with Linux, where you can get drilled down to the individual packages that you don't want to install. Whereas Microsoft is like, oh, here's a bunch of fucking random, updates. Install them all and shut the fuck up. And we'll restart at the most inconvenient time if you don't tell us not to. So, yeah, it's relative. Again, a lot of these are going to be relative. But things like when you update the kernel and your graphics stack in Mesa or your NVIDIA driver or that kind of stuff, you're not going to see the new drivers and stuff or the new improvements, etc., from that until you actually reboot the system generally. Some Wayland, I'm not 100% sure on, but I know with X, when you restarted X, a lot of the times the new graphics Mesa stuff would generically kind of refresh itself, but I'm not 100% sure if that's how that works with Wayland. So, yeah.
In this day and age, privacy is more important than ever. And let's just say that Windows doesn't exactly have the best track record when it comes to respecting your digital privacy. Linux, on the other hand, is all about respecting your freedom and privacy. Linux distros are designed with privacy in mind, and they don't collect or sell your data like some other operating systems we know Windows. So you can browse the web, send emails, and do your online banking, knowing that your personal information is safe and sound.
Depends on the applications you install. That's simple. If you install fucking Edge on your Linux system, Microsoft's going to be getting a lot of your data. Again, it's all about, this is where the control aspect comes in. You, at least with the Linux base, you control how much data you decide to put out and give. So that's where that quote unquote freedom portion comes in. It's about the control aspect of how much you decide to give out or not give out, which Windows does not do. You have the freedom to change shit, kind of, until a reboot or an update tells you to have to change your fucking defaults. But yeah, again, it depends on what you decide to install, realistically.
Last but not least, let's talk about variety, baby. The beauty of Linux is that there's a distro for everyone, from seasoned tech veterans to complete beginners. If you're just starting out, there are user-friendly distros like Ubuntu and Linux Mint that will make you feel right at home. For the more adventurous, there are distros like Arch Linux and Gentoo that give you complete control over your system. No matter what your skill level or interests, there's a Linux distro out there that's perfect for you.
Yeah. As far as like your out of the box experiences, that's what's going to matter. And that's solely based on your usage level and experience and needs of a system. Unlike some YouTubing jackasses that do Linux stuff, I'm not going to say distros don't matter, because they do, because they all have a particular audience that they're looking for, particular demographic, whatever you want to call it. And understanding that, wow, X distro, I can do this in, insert distro here, Debian or Arch or whatever. Yeah, cool that you can. Not everyone wants to fucking do that. The consequence and the awesomeness of the open sourcey stuff and the choice stuff is what matters. And the freedom that you expound about, and then you call all that freedom of choice and the freedom of experience level, etc., pointless. So, yeah, while I don't think every distro is useful, I'm glad they all exist, because they generically all bring something different to the table and a different thought process to stuff. So I like the fact that there's a distro and demo. There are distros for almost every demo that is out there. So that's really cool.
So there you have it. We've covered 10 reasons Linux destroys Windows. From its open source freedom and rock-solid security, to its unbeatable price tag and unparalleled customization options, Linux really is the operating system of the future. If you're tired...
Okay, anyway, enough of the AI-generated script voice shit, whatever. The short version of this video is like, cool. It made 2 points out of maybe 10, or maybe made 2 points out of 10. Whatever. I hate these videos because they're just so, it doesn't destroy something. Like, I say this as a person who uses everything. Like down there, I have a Surface Book two 15-inch with Windows, and I got a 2019 MacBook Pro 16-inch. Newest versions of Windows and newest versions of macOS. They have their strengths, they have their weaknesses, just like everything else. What are you willing to give up is what matters. Convenience for security, convenience, etc. Like, what are you willing to? Everything's a trade-off. And understanding that. So if you decide to switch to something, understand that there's trade-offs and alternatives. But as far as like these 10 ways Linux is better than Windows, well, and I'm saying this as a Linux user, like there's some shit in Linux that irks my soul, and there's all some shit in Windows that irks my soul. There's a lot of shit in Mac OS that irks my goddamn soul. But realistically, it doesn't destroy it. It's just a different way of computing and approaching computing. Now, I think as a product and the availability, the selection of products that Linux distros offer for customized solutions, for our kind of out of the box solutions, everything from, oh, you want a game console? Here's an OS for it. You know, I have a, somewhere down there, I have a 1X player that shipped with Windows 11. Fucking horrible experience. Square peg, round hole, beat the square peg with the fucking triangle kind of approach using Windows on those style of devices. It's fucking terrible. But realistically, I installed Chimera OS and it's fucking fantastic. So having the viability and the option to do that with a out of the box solution that even a multi-billion trillion dollar company can't fucking figure out, that an open source community figured out, means a whole lot more, because it shows that one's adaptable and the other is not. And it's because of the build the nature that and the core design philosophies, etc., and the control philosophies that we all benefit from is not something that the competitors offer. That's what matters. So does it destroy it? No, it's just not always. It just fits more solutions that are available than what the alternatives that the big players tend to put out fit. So anyway, what's your take, besides the hate for AI generated videos and voices? What's your take? Are these 10 valid reasons why Linux destroys Windows? Yeah, let me know. You guys know what to do. Comment, rate, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Any on the Patreon, all that crap is down in the description along with the original video. I will catch you guys on the flip. Peace.